Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you. That's right, on Australian Survivor, Titans versus Rebels, week 3 here on the channel. I'm your host, Titan Chris, joined by Rebel Mucky, Big Toe Tomac, and Rebin Kahuna. A bit of a fence sitter tonight, are you, Kahuna? You can't decide which one of the two teams you like more.
Like everyone says on the show, every single Titan has to go, there's a bit of rebel in all of us, I think. Just go as cliched and stereotypical as you can, you know?
Mucky, how have you been, man?
I've been really good, man. I've been really good. An exciting week of Survivor, very rebellious and very Titanous as well at the same time. So, yeah, I can't wait to break it all down.
Were you excited that Star Wars ended up being mentioned in this week's Survivor?
I was, but unfortunately it was I think it was like a Force Awakens or something was mentioned, but there was no real Force that was awakened. It was more like the Rise of Skywalker, which for those who aren't Star Wars fans is the worst Star Wars film of all time. So
very true. Very
when the
true.
Phantom Menace exists, when the Phantom Menace is a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got Tom, who's changed his name here on the channel to RIP Garrick with a sad face emoji. Are you okay, Tom? Do we need to have like some sort of a discussion right now? Like, we're here for you, buddy.
I don't want to spoil the next episode, but it was a cold night that night. Just, no, Garrick. I had to cuddle Valeria, that ugly lady.
So bad losing Garrick. I mean, the guy had such masterful gameplay this season. You know, he was clearly running it from beginning to end. The way that he adapted to the game and was able to, change his game up, not let his emotions take the most out of him in the game, and just really be the way that he was open to talk to everyone, Kahuna, was really something to see, right? Like, I mean, will we ever get a player as adaptable in Survivor as Garrick again?
I mean, the fact that on his way out, his exiting line was "dirty dogs" is just the best. Like, it sums up exactly how open and warm and adaptable he was to these people. Although, to be fair, Chris, you say that, but I feel like he was open and his heart was hurt and broken by Kirby early in the game. And it turned the warm old man into the hardened Garrick that we kind of got at the end that walks away saying dirty dogs.
Yeah, it's the angry old man that doesn't want the kids to come and play on his lawn and sort of yells at them to get off the lawn. That's basically what Garrick turned into towards the end of the show. But let's say hello to a few people here in the live tonight. We've got Chadude. Welcome back. You're right. We are back. Artie is here as well saying, where's my popcorn? Make sure to get it going. We've also got Gabe saying this week, all that tension from last week paid off. Very true. We only lost one great player in Viola and nobody else. Any of the great guys, none of any of you great guys cared about. Okay.
Yeah, my muscle mummy's gone.
Yeah. Childhood says, how did he know they were voting for him? Interesting. Ferris says, vengeance for Garrick and Viola. So Ferris, welcome back to the live as well. Mark saying vengeance for Garrick and Viola. So obviously Ferris and Mark both still in the game. And it's going to be interesting to see how this game turns out because, I've got a lot of thoughts here. The Fairy Tiger also welcome back to the show saying, hello, everyone. Anyone can go in an episode this season. That's awesome. And Aileen coming in saying RIP to Garrick as well. Very interesting gameplay from Aileen. I can't wait to talk about that towards the end of the episode. But let's get straight into it. Like episode 7, we did end up seeing a tribe swap. Tom, I know you're a big fan of tribe swaps, and if you ever were to play Survivor, those are the moments that you look forward to, right? When you really can show how good you are at this game, when you potentially get swapped into a tribe, you're at the bottom of the numbers, you got to work your way up. How do you feel this tribe swap sort of worked out for you? Were you happy to see some of your favorites be in power? Were you sad to see some of them not get the power by being in the minority? What was your thoughts?
Well, I think Mark's already bracing himself in the comments. I definitely had some questionable thoughts about his, I guess, impatience to enact revenge. And look, I dislike Caroline more than everyone else. You know, like she looks like Emperor Palpatine. Like I don't know, like she looks like
Oh.
female Palpatine right there. She even got like the eye, like the red eyes and everything, and like
Mm.
the evil look. And I'd want to vote her out straight away as well. But I feel like we saw the difference between Mark's gameplay here and maybe a bit more of like a survivor icon in Natalie Anderson over in America. You know, like how she lost Jeremy at the merge in San Juan del Sur, and she waited to seek revenge on him. And I thought that was a very impressive move from her. But I'm glad Mark did it because that was like the best episode of the season so far, like episode 8. But I kind of, for gameplay wise, I wouldn't have enacted revenge straight away.
Yeah, but listen, since we're bringing it up, we can talk about it a little bit here. We can go back and forth because we're talking about all of the highlights of this week. I think it's very easy to say that while we're sitting on the sidelines, but I'm a student of the game. I'm someone who wants to one day hopefully play this game as well, and I would hope that I can put 2 moves together that are successful if I was ever to play this game. So, sitting on the sidelines, it's easy because we get to see the full picture, but I think it's a bit of a lesson for all of us, Kahuna, that not everybody plays the game at the same level as someone who's a big fan of the show that have watched it for many seasons. I mean, we had someone, and there's a lot of criticism going to Mark here for wanting to take this, game by the horns and potentially make a move in that moment. But how would he have predicted the horrible gameplay of someone like Sarah in the game? She is someone that's supposed to be putting out fires. She was putting everything on fire, and not for good reasons, Kahuna, when Mark let her in on the plan. So sometimes you just can't plan for how certain people are going to react in the moment if they're just not that good at the game. Maybe he should have pulled the trigger after she nearly blew up his spot, and he still pursued and still went on with trying to get the blind side on Caroline. But you also understand that because, Caroline's got a lot of power in the game at this point. So being able to take out another power play like that, it's definitely making the season better, at least. What's your thoughts on, the difficulties of being a fan versus actually going out there and playing and hoping that everybody sees the game the same way you do and hoping that everybody is going to make the best move for themselves? Because Sarah played herself out of this game.
Look, that's the hard thing, is that like, oftentimes when you're strategizing, you're metagaming, you're figuring things out, you kind of do it in a way that you anticipate or at least think that there's going to be a certain reaction in a certain way, right? If I do A, they'll do B. If I zig, they'll zag. Therefore, I can, X, Y, and Z, and you kind of game it out. But when you're dealing with idiots and people that don't know how to play the game or at least strategize at all, like, your strategy goes out the window because you're like, I'm meant to be doing A, and they're like, I'm doing blue. You're like, what the hell? Like, how do I combat blue? Like, that's not a game plan. Like, we were doing A and B as a backup, right? And they're like throwing out weird things. And like, if you go to someone and say, hey, here's the plan, and then they immediately go to the person that you're trying to like turn on, and like, you can't predict that. I do think that maybe people like Mark, I said last week that he had a good position, but it was a very difficult thing to manage. And I do think he poorly managed that in the last week or so, and it came back to him. But I do think he's got the skill and the capability. I think he kind of got maybe a little bit relaxed in his good position, being between 2 alliances, maybe ignored one a little bit more than the other. I'm assuming based on the jealousy, but it is it's a very high degree of difficulty of the game as itself. And then it's even harder when you're playing people that don't know how to play because they're just throwing random stuff out all the time. So it's hard to predict. How do you do that with the people like a Kelly out there and a Sarah? And you can't.
My opinion personally on this is that Mark has already stamped his return call for in future season, no matter where he goes this season. I think this is what the producers look for. They look for someone that's not going to sit idly by and let the game sort of play itself, like a Jaden, who really is just sitting there and it must have the easiest life on Survivor ever. He just waits while everybody panics around him to get the name, and he's like, yep, I'm good to go. Jaden is the kind of guy I would align with in the game because that's the guy who doesn't really think about from what we're seeing, he probably is thinking about the show. We're just not getting it in the edit. I want to give him some credit because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but it just looks like he's cruising throughout this game. I don't know if he necessarily gets that callback based on what we've seen so far, but Mucky, you're someone that have said whenever you play Survivor, you have to play Survivor like it is your first and only time that you're going to be playing. It's the final call you'll get. What do you think of Mark in this position? There's a lot of criticism coming his way. For me personally, yes, it didn't work, but if it worked, if he pulled that off, what a move it would have been, and he would have had control right back in his hands in this game.
I mean, I think we can all agree, when it comes to me, my way of thinking, I'm someone who wants to go out in a blaze of glory, right? And I think
early in the season.
Yeah, early. Yeah, in the first episode, right? In the first episode. and when you're Mark, right, like you've just been blindsided, your closest ally is gone. You're already at the bottom of the order, right? And you kind of know that they've got Sarah and Rihanna as well. So it's just really you and Alex on the bottom. Can you really trust what they're saying to you in that sort of position, right? I knew that exactly. If he fails, he's an idiot. If he succeeds, he's a genius. Because if that move works out, he's right back at the top again. Right, and he's just made inroads with the other tribes when it comes to merge. He's got more friendships and whatnot, and so I think it was like worth a try. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I think what Mark did, like I fully stand by, is what I would have done in a situation. Because why just wait at the bottom when you've got an opportunity to rise to the top?
Yeah, and he had ammunition in his pocket. He had an idol that he knew no matter where the votes were going to go, this specific tribal, he was going to play it. He's going to be safe. Some people were critical of the fact that he didn't play it on Sarah when he knew that Sarah was going to get votes in this specific moment. But it's such a risky move, Kahuna, to yes, we're sitting on the sidelines, we're sitting on the couch and we're watching it. We know where the votes are going to go, definitely, but Mark's just been betrayed by the people that he thought was closest to him in the game. They've already left him out of a vote. I've said it a couple of weeks ago, Survivor 101, if you feel like there's any heat coming your way and you've got an idol, play it. I'd rather be the fool who placed the idol and didn't need to than the person who holds on to it getting voted out with it in my pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. You always play the cautious. When you have an idol, going home with it is the worst possible thing because you didn't need to. Like, it was completely unnecessary. Now you're gone. But I don't know. Like, I feel like Mark could have done more to. Like, we always talk about how, like, Ferris last week mentioned how you use an idol for your power. Like, is he like, do you keep it hidden? Do you do the basic like Survivor thing? And you mentioned, Chris, that it was almost like the two different approaches to playing it. Like, Mark, keep it hidden, use it when you need to. Ferris, using it as a power weapon, maybe for a couple of tribals going forward. And that's always a really good. Someone mentioned before, and one thing I find so fascinating about this season is the way that so many things are playing out in parallel. Like, I thought about it during the week, and I was going to come in here thinking I'm all smart and stuff. But yeah, like the fact that both Titans and Rebels had the Jock Alliance kind of separate themselves into the minority, get voted out, while the main alliance end up turning on each other. And then in the swap, they both go 3 minority, and it's working out. Then the 2 idols as well. And it's just weird how it's working out that way. You mentioned Jaden. I think Mark really should have been doing more to foster the Jaden relationship. He is, I feel like he's such an easy get. Like, if he's on Caroline about the food, and Caroline, like, he's not a fan, but when he goes, who do I vote for? She said, do it. So he goes, okay. And I'm wondering if maybe Mark just dropped the most recent comment into his ear, he would have voted that way. Like, if anyone just says, vote this, he's like, okay, vote this one. Okay. And like, I feel like that's how Jaden would have done.
I feel like there's a lot we're not seeing between Eden and Jaden, who seem to have some sort of a relationship. Kitty seems to be a better player than what the edit is showing us when it comes to nurturing relationships and keeping people together. The edit's really wanting us to think that Caroline is the godmother of this mafia family. But I don't know. Like, I feel like Kitty is doing a lot of the subtle work behind the scenes, while maybe Caroline is better at verbalizing what the plan is. She's the one who reached out to the girls, that got the girls on board to make a vote here that they wanted against Viola, taking Viola out. And I do want to talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about episode 7. Let's talk about the Middle-Aged Mafia making this move, taking a preemptive strike against one of their allies and Mark. Eden was the one who kind of said, is this the right move? Are we doing this too early? Or, if we vote Mark's right-hand person out, someone he wants to work with outside of this alliance, how's he going to take it? Is he going to come back to the family, or is he going to burn the whole house down? And I think that, he had some logic in that. I'm really interested, Tom, you were very hard on Mark. Should we be equally as hard on the Middle-Aged Mafia for burning this alliance member? Now they're 3 strong, potentially with Jaden, but it feels like Jaden will go wherever the wind blows in the future here. That they screw themselves more than what Mark screwed himself in the game by reacting. I feel like in my mind, I haven't made my mind up, but I don't necessarily like this move, because it seemed like Mark was keeping Viola calm and keeping her at least in check in the game.
Well, I definitely think we should be as hard on the Mafia as we are on as I am on Mark, at least, because it's just stupid to believe you'll have his trust, or you'll have him wanting to work with you. He might work with you by necessity, but the second he can work against you, he will. And not to mention, as soon as merge hits, let's say both Mark and Valeria make it, Valeria is gonna hear all about this this blindside on Viola, and that's gonna fire her up and make her hate the Mafia, and Mark's gonna reignite the hatred for them for getting rid of Viola. But I really think it should have just been like Rihanna should have been literally the number 1 target. She literally says, "Yeah, I'm really tight with Kirby and Scott," and I think everyone in the game, even people who haven't met Kirby, know that Kirby is a big player and a big threat. So why wouldn't you get rid of one of her, her number 1 ally? That just seems like the logical move. Anyway.
Yeah, totally agree. I do want to bring up a couple of comments here in the live. The Fairy Tiger Wolf is saying both tribes are equally impatient, voting out their own numbers before the merge. Mind blown emoji. Totally agree with you. Very interesting gameplay. Let's not forget that Aileen was the one that had some reason when it came to the Titans tribe. Obviously.
Of course you're listening.
Of course you were, Simp.
Were you listening to Aileen when she said that they needed to keep... listen, Mucky, there's no reason for you to be the first boot anymore now. You could just ask Aileen how not to be the first boot. She seems to be someone that could coach you to getting to the merge at least.
Yes, I'll pay for private tutoring sessions on how not to be the first boot. No, it's...
I love how Mucky completely turns red immediately. It's the second week in a row now.
Bro, it's 20 degrees in my apartment. Okay?
You live in New Zealand. 20 degrees is not hot. You are a baby.
It's so hot. It is so hot. Gosh. But yeah, it was quite interesting though how with both tribes, seemingly turning on their own numbers. But Aileen really did have the strategy of, no, let's just stay together and take out the Titans. But I hate to jump ahead, but I kind of feel like Ferris and Kirby turning on each other, that just needs to happen. They can't both live on the tribe together anymore. That needs to happen. Whereas with Caroline and Viola, I feel like they could have waited before making that move. Whereas with Ferris and Kirby, I feel like that always needed to happen.
I'm going to call it. I'm going to call on why this happened. And we'll definitely, we've spoken a lot about the new Rebels tribe, and because 2 of the people in the Rebels tribe ended up going home this week, but we will definitely talk about the Titans and the makeup of that tribe as well, because there's a lot to get into. But I do want to bring up Artie saying, do you think if someone eloquently explains their moves, it influences the confessional count? 1,000%. I think if you're good at explaining and narrating, you get all the confessionals, especially in Australian Survivor, where they love giving a lot of confessionals to certain players if they're going to be big players this season. And I think, you mentioned that Caroline and Viola could have worked together. I think Viola, and the reason that Mark had gravitated to Viola in the game is because she was a bit more level-headed than Caroline. I think Caroline, being an A-type personality, being used to having that control and power, wanting to have that control and power in the game, she just had this jealousy in the sense that, they even said, we got a bit jealous. You got another friend you were working with, and we needed all of you, Mark, to be with us. It's like Tom said, having Mark there with a gun to his head was never going to be something that he was going to entertain long term. Did he play it correctly? Should he have hidden a little bit more for maybe a couple of votes? Tomato, tomato. Like, if this move played out, he had the numbers, and potentially in the game, if you're betrayed once, Kahuna, and somebody doesn't let you in on a vote, if you can't work with people long term in the game, what's the point in keeping those numbers? I say if the ship's burning, jump off, get on another ship, and this could have been a move. If he saved both Ree and Sarah in this moment with Alex, he now suddenly has new friends and OG Rebels that he can work with when he gets to the merge. So overall, I get it was premature to a certain degree, but he returned friendly fire at this point. So I feel like most of the blame in that tribe should go to the original alliance. And suddenly we don't see any of this relationship between Eden and Mark. It seems really fractured. I don't think I've seen them have a single conversation this week.
Yeah, and it seems to be all a consequence of what's happened. And as I said, at least this is what the edit has shown us. And you mentioned Caroline and Kitty verbalized that they were jealous, they were feeling neglected and abandoned. And I feel like Mark didn't manage that relationship enough. He is,
Definitely.
or was, at least what was shown to us, he was the leader of this tribe. And he could have kept his people in line to not have that happen. I do think it was going to happen anyway. Like, he was keeping Viola at bay. I'm going to take an opposite tack to all of you here. I don't have a problem with Caroline taking that shot early. My only problem is that they're doing it as a half measure.
Yes.
That they're doing it at Viola in order to get Mark back, because that's the foolish bit. What you said, Chris, once you've betrayed him and he's feeling backstabbed and butthurt and all that sort of thing, he's not coming back to the fold to all of a sudden be like, oh, thank you, like bringing me back. He's pissed, and he should be pissed, and they should know he's pissed. So if I was them, if you're going to take that shot and you knew it was going to come with Viola anyway, I don't know what, like, I'm assuming at camp, there's vibes, there's stuff going on. There's not just all of a sudden like, hey, how about we do Viola? Like, like there's tension. There's like,
how do you not read between the lines? Yeah,
exactly. Right. It was going to come eventually. My only thing with them is don't try to get Mark back. If you're taking a shot at Viola, then you're cutting off Mark at the same time, and then bring in Ree and Sarah, who love you for some strange reason. After like 12 hours, they're like, we're all in. Like, I'm Caroline all the way. They had those two right there. You took a shot at Viola, take the next shot at Mark as well, cut him off if that's what you want to do, because you've taken that shot already. By doing that, it's done. You need to commit to it and just go all the way, rather than sort of doing these half measures. I'll take a shot here, but try to walk it back a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it kind of causes the tension, I think. If draw your sand in the line and stand on it.
Yeah. Can I just give credit to a player that we haven't spoken about too much since the Cuddle Alliance was a thing? We haven't really mentioned this player's name a lot, but Alex has played a phenomenal game from the bottom, pretty much from the beginning of the season. He's been out of the numbers. He's found a way to get Kelly to love-hate him, save him in the game. Every single time you think it's an obvious vote, like you don't want a guy like Alex, who clearly has smarts, who clearly has a bit of a knack for the game, and the physical ability when he gets to emerge to turn it on and win some individual immunities to get there. Tom, I know you're a bit of a physical specimen yourself. You would probably be the challenge beast of the season if you got on. Are you taking notes on what Alex is doing at the moment? Because he's playing a phenomenal game from the bottom.
I mean, my one critique of Alex is when he was at the tribal and he showed the biceps. Later on, Mark's like, yeah, well, he's not just biceps. He's also brains. I would have interrupted Mark mid-sentence, stood up and like lifted my shirt up. Yeah, I've also got a six-pack. Honestly, I'm just jacked all around, No, but no, I really love Alex. I think he's great TV. I don't know if he's. I think in the past few rounds he's played pretty well. Like since the swap, he's played really well, considering like what he actually could do. Like he's really been put in a bad situation. And what Alex? Oh,
So
I
basically,
mean,
Brendan says what Alex lacks in swimwear fashion. For those that are listening to the audio version, he makes up for with his social game. And I think the one thing
Kelly
that you
likes it.
can't, yeah, I think the one thing you can't train for, and it's something you either instinctively have or don't have when you go out there to play Survivor, is adaptability. Like, we made fun of Garrick for his great adaptability skills in the game, but Alex is the polar opposite. He's adapting to the situations around him. He's had people voted out that he's close to in the game, unlike Mark. Unlike potentially some of the players who get very tunnel vision, very emotional about the game, he has an ability to let that go and play each round as a new round and be an option for people, which is a great social game. It's a great skill for a Survivor player to have. I do think the edit loves him. We're hearing a lot from Alex. People are saying he's the new Simon. I think he's a lot more glued on than Simon. I really do think he's a more dangerous player than Simon. Would you agree, Tom?
yeah. I think he's more capable, and he's not worrying about making really, really bad like analogies and whatnot. Like he's actually screwed onto the game, like Simon trying to do the sometimes you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Oh wait, no. And then Simon was there for TV and nothing else, I think.
I think Furry Tiger's got something. It could, listen, I wouldn't count Alex out as a potential underdog winner at this stage. Remember, Australian Survivor loves themselves someone that goes to Redemption Island or Exile Rock or whatever they're going to call it to come back in the game. And someone like Alex, the longer he's in the game, I feel like people are missing the point. Mucky, what do you do with a guy like Alex in the game who's clearly smart? Clearly he's got, the social game. He's got the ability to adapt. Do you let him slide into a merge? Do you think that they'll take him out before we get there? Because the Middle-Aged Mafia have shown that they don't like the younger people. They vote them out in the game, but somehow he's still there.
Well, I mean, I hate to jump into next week, but we should be expecting at least one more non-elimination episode, potentially next week or even the week after, right? Depending when the merge is. And so I think even if they do go for Alex, there's a chance that he could potentially be saved. But also someone with Alex, who is he going to turn to? Like, he doesn't have an alliance or anything. I think similar to Sarah and Rihanna, he's also searching for a place to call home. He's got different options who he can call home, but he isn't actually in with them yet, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I think he's just a free agent up for grabs. And with someone like Alex, you could really use him on your side.
I see this comment, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I see this comment, but I do think there's a key difference, right? So Alex hasn't voted correctly, where Simon did vote out Benny and Shannon in his first 4 votes. That is true. Simon had people that wanted to play with him at the start, and then he tried to take too much control, and also made, Simon was an emotional player. Alex isn't an emotional player. Simon had the focus on George. He needed to get George out. George was the person, he wanted that title of Kingslayer so badly that it actually turned people away from working with Simon, where Alex has not been in a position of power at any stage in this game. And that's why I think it's different. And he's shown an ability to adapt and not let those emotions take over his thought process when it comes to voting people out. Kuna, what's your thoughts?
Well, this is a really interesting point. The fact that he,
by the way, Alex did not pay me for this endorsement. So, Alex, if you're listening to this, holla at your boy.
I think this might be one of those situations where you look at it and go, Alex has looked pretty good this week. But then you go, he has not been on a right vote once. Not once the entire time, right? So is it the fact that Alex is actually playing phenomenally? Or are these people playing really badly? Like this week especially. Does he look better because we had people turning on their own alliances? We had scrambles that were revealing secrets to the wrong people constantly, and everything that was sort of going crazy. And Alex, by not making a huge mistake, kind of looks better and can float in between. I do think he's got a little bit of inbuilt immunity because of his physical stature, which is kind of sucky because it didn't matter for Tobias. It didn't matter for Frankie. But all of a sudden, they're like, oh, we got to keep Alex around. But I haven't kept anyone else around for their strength in the past. You know what I mean? Like, so Viola, like another perfect example, but they'll keep Alex, and which is weird, but he's used that to kind of bounce around and cause like chaos. Like someone comes, Kirby threw her vote initially to try to stay on their side, and then he immediately goes to Perez. It's like, hey, Kirby, like, you know what I mean? Like he keeps, like, as soon as someone brings him in, and he's managing to get in very quickly and very well for someone who is an outsider. Like
100%.
they keep turning back to him, which speaks to his game, but he'll immediately go to the other person and snitch on them, which is, it was funny to see, but it's just interesting the way he's in a position of no power, but is wielding it to his advantage while still not making a technically right move at all. And I don't know how that's happened, but he is looking good.
He's
while
looking
not
good.
making any good moves.
100%, you know. The Fury Tiger says, but will Alex become hyper-focused on getting Kelly out if they both make it to the merge? I think Alex needs Kelly to get voted out to end up playing a good game. I don't know. Like, Alex doesn't like Kelly, but I don't think he's like, we have to vote her out next. I think Alex is actually one of those players that he's willing to be a second or third in charge and not take lead on a vote, which that is the difference between him and Simon. Simon desperately wanted to be a player that could control a vote, that could influence an alliance to go in a certain direction. I feel like Alex is a little bit more, he's like, I understand where I'm at the moment in the game. I don't have that power. I'll sit back a little bit. And yes, he's being led into a lot of different places or throwing votes out there, but we've talked about this many a times. People forget about the pre-merge. I mean, Survivor Australia is a marathon. By the time you get to the end of the game, people can only remember what you did from the merge onwards. So if you're going to have a bad start to your game, but you can finish strong, I think you still have a real opportunity to get to the end and win. Let's not forget who won the very first season of Australian Survivor. You only need to finish very strong to be potentially, I know that got a bit of a smile there from Tom, to potentially win this show. But
Tom's favorite winner.
I think where Alex could end up really well, and the same goes for a lot of people here, I get the vibe from this season that it's going to be one of those things where all the big players take each other out and they just focus. Like we've seen a lot of Faraz, Kirby, Mark, Caroline, and they're all going to sort of get each other, and then the likes of an Alex and a Jaden and Eileen are going to come out of the scraps and just be like, oh, we're what's left. Let's, now we can win. We can win after the war that happened, and everyone's kind of taking each other out. Whoever's left standing wins. You know what I mean?
Well, Chadu, this is what people said about Alex earlier. They said that Alex didn't get any of the votes right. But what I'm trying to say is that if you can outlast and realize that Australian Survivor is a marathon, you can make the right impressions by the end of the season. That's the most excitement I've seen from Tom in a long time. Who would have guessed someone shitting on a female winner would get Tom this excited here on the channel?
All right, Gabe. All right. By the way, Gabe was speaking negatively about a female player earlier on in the chat. I can't be bothered to find it.
Call him out. Shame him. Shame him.
Yeah,
I didn't see it. Show the receipts.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll look now.
Listen, okay, let's talk a little bit about the immunity challenge here on the first episode. They had 2 ropes. This was a new challenge. I don't think I've seen this on Survivor again, but memory isn't what it used to be. But they had 2 ropes. They had this gutter metal thing that they had to use to transfer a ball from one end to the other end. And they had to do this by using a pulley system that was in reverse. Mucky, this seems like the type of carnival trick game that you would have been really good at. What did you think of this challenge? Did you enjoy the fact that we keep seeing Australian Survivor innovate and bring new fun ways to win immunity to the show?
You think I'll be good at this challenge? Like, I can barely draw a circle. How am I supposed to get my hand-eye coordination right when it's in reverse?
Because your brain works in reverse. I thought it would just be natural for you to be able to do this.
He does everything backwards.
Exactly.
It'll mostly be accidental. I'll be like, what does this do? Then boof, the ball goes in and somehow it lands, right? But yeah, it's as Mark says, it's a brand new challenge, and it's always quite fun seeing these new challenges come up, or it'll be like a similar challenge to a previous one, but there's a new twist on it. Whereas with American Survivor, is the exact same challenges over and over and over again with nothing new added to it. So yeah, I quite like these new challenges. I quite like these physical challenges as well. And it was a nice break, from like a physical challenge as well, where it really was just like a mind game, really, just trying to perfectly set all of like the poles across as well. So yeah, it was
I do have a
it was
question for
good.
Mark, who's in the chat still here, since he's still lurking about. And I know this wouldn't give too much away because it's already happened on the show. So I'm hoping you can answer this. How difficult was it for you, Mark, to keep your mouth shut on that next immunity challenge when you walked in and there was no Viola coming into that challenge and you had Valeria in the thickest of Russian accents say,
Who's got the guts and balls?
who got the guts and balls to do this? And they were like pointing and everybody stayed quiet. How difficult was it for you to not say anything in that moment and blow your cover? Because I think that's going to go down as one of the classics in Survivor. Like, Tom, if you had Valeria looking at you like that, saying it, like, how small would you feel if you were out there?
I'd be fine, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't.
Oh,
do
because
that
it's a
to Valeria.
woman.
But if she was talking to him, he wouldn't be able to talk anyway. He'd be like,
No, I wouldn't do that to Valeria. I would never disrespect a woman like that and vote out their best friend. I could only vote out men, except for myself, of course. So yeah,
I think we're getting in Tom's head so much so that when at the end of the day he's going to go and play Survivor, he's going to start an all girls alliance with himself, and he's going to call it Tom's Angels. That's going to be his alliance if he was ever to play.
Well, I was in an all girl band, and our band name was literally just called Girl Band, and then it was just me there, like while we, I was, oh hey,
so meta.
I'm one of the girls,
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark Warnock saying no comment, can't talk about that. That's fine. I'm sure all of the information will come out after the season. I don't blame you. Aline Chong saying I loved it. The heat being put on. And did you notice, Kahuna, that Ferris was his usual self, being a bit of a stirrer in the background, saying, Kitty looks like she's a bit guilty on that side. Maybe you should ask her.
I like Kitty as well when she's like, no, it was me. No idea. I don't know. And it's like the most obvious thing where Ferris again can't. Again, I want to play poker with Ferris. People have mentioned it, but the smile on his face when anything happens, he's not hiding it. He's like, he knows Kitty's done it. Everyone knows Kitty's done it. Kitty's like, no idea where it came from. No clue. Like
Kitty's got a good poker face. Like even when Sarah came up to her with Mark standing there and she's like, I heard that this is the plan and that you're going to vote me out. And she's like, I don't know anything. This is news to me, Good poker face under pressure. I don't know if it was as good when Valeria was looking her dead in the eyes. But yeah, Gabe coming in with some more hot takes here, saying, I bet Tom is the reason the girl band failed.
Actually, one of them moved to Sydney, yuck, and the other
probably
one
because of
moved,
you.
and the other one moved to Townsville. So two of them moved.
Again, Tom.
So what's the common denominator there, Tom?
They moved away from you, Tom.
So, I mean, they moved in two separate
Interstate.
locations.
Thousands of Ks away from you.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not losing any sleep over it.
Talking about this immunity challenge, boys. Again, what a I mean, listen, Australian Survivor really does it. Like, I hope, Maki, I know you want to play one day. I hope you've been hitting the CrossFit gym. You're practicing how to.
I don't need to. I'm all natural, baby.
Natural, baby. All chocolate
All
milk.
natural. All chocolate
You're like
milk.
a natural baby. You're like a natural baby? Is that what you said?
I'm a natural baby that's ready to get delivered by Caroline. All right, I'm locked and loaded to go.
By Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, by Emperor Palpatine. Sorry.
Jeez.
I'm ready to commit Order 66.
This is going off the rails real quick. What did you think, Mucky, of the challenge? It looked really hard with those logs, trying to pull it over the logs to try and get the puzzle pieces to the other end. They were stuck there for a long time. Do you think that it's one of those classic cases where maybe the dream team didn't go and test it out beforehand? Because it seemed like this was one of the harder ones that we've seen so far in the immunity challenges.
I mean, I think it's this matter of it really depends where you place the logs, right? Like, I think some of the logs did kind of look a wee bit out of shape, right? So do maybe put them towards the start, so then once you actually initially get over, then it's much more easier going, across the rest of the bridge, or do try like space them out a bit, because it seemed like, especially with the new Rebels tribe, like they had a wee bit of cluster towards the end, whereas with the other Titans, it kind of did look a bit more spread out. So maybe it just really, log was upside down. Maybe I think it just depends how you place the logs in that challenge, rather than it just like being a failed test, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a really great challenge.
Gabe says he believes you more than Tom, at least, but I'm just going to say that's a really low bar for you to climb over, So I don't know if that's a compliment necessarily, Mucky.
Just you wait. I'm going to play one of the most strategic, dominant games, the Bigfoot Alliance, the Wendigo Blindside. You know it.
Now, let's bring some reason back to this podcast. I need your opinion here. Someone that takes your strategy very seriously, someone that really looks at all angles. What did you think of Sarah's gameplay? Like, if you had to rate her in this moment here as one of the best or worst players, mid-tier, like top tier, mid-tier, lower tier, where does she sit? Is she even on the graph? Let me ask you this. And based on everything that we saw play out in the back at Tribe here for the Rebels before the vote.
I mean, I wouldn't say on the whole, like it's like she's not worse than Rogue, but that one episode, that sequence of scrambles was probably the biggest, like the worst play I've ever seen in Survivor. Like, or maybe except that dude Zane that tried to trick everyone into voting for him.
Survivor US, different franchise.
Yeah. Well, Australian Survivor for sure. Like, yeah, she's been pretty inoffensive in the first couple of weeks. Didn't really do much, but then
do you think she was a fan?
I'm just gonna block. No, not in the slightest. Like, how can you be? Like, I don't understand. I don't know. Like, I don't think she's ever heard the word Survivor. The way she like. The thing that blew my mind was that both her and Rhiannon were in the driver's seat as far as information. They heard it from both sides. Like, you're not hearing it from one party and then trying to decide and make it up. They're hearing it from both, where it's actually kind of verified. Like, when Mark comes to you and goes, "Hey, Caroline just told me you snitched on me," she can go, "I did snitch on you."
So Mark is telling the truth.
Yeah, like. What the hell? Like,
and then she still wants to go, and Alex is there talking to her, trying to keep her calm, saying, "Hey, where are you going?" I know. I'm just.
Everyone was. I was Alex. I was Alex at them. Everyone watching was Alex going, "What are you doing? No, don't go blow it up." She's like, "I'm not going to blow it up. I'm just going to go talk to them."
I actually think it was pretty genius on Sarah. If you ask me.
Of course you do.
I actually did. I actually did.
That's why I didn't ask you about.
I actually have good reasons why. I've been thinking about it all week. All right, I've actually got really good reasons why. Would you like to hear it?
I can't wait.
Go for it.
It's like a deep dive on grade.
Apologies to everybody who's listening to this.
No. All right. Hear me out. It's Mucky Hope time. All right. So, by sort of spreading all this information, right? That Mark he wants to take out Caroline. By feeding that information to Caroline and to Kitty, she's trying to create more of a diversion between the two, more of a rift, right? Which they even said on the show that, like, hey, like Rhiannon and Sarah are trying to create a rift between us. I actually think is a bad job on Kitty and Caroline for not actually swooping them up and trying to take a shot at Mark, because these two girls are so loyal to them.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Let me just, because we've got to get the timeline right here, right?
Yes.
We're talking about Sarah in totality having a bad read on the game here, but I agree with you up until this point. Her going to Kitty, trying to create that rift, not a bad move. Mark going back to her, telling her that Kitty has told her the plan and told her what was that Sarah went there and snitched on him. And her still thinking, I guess, I'll go back to Kitty and talk to her again after I've been rejected. And the information went to Mark. And that's the point where she lost me. She lost me at that.
Look, when it comes to being rejected but still finding a way to slither on through, that's where I come in, right? That's my A game.
And look at where it's gotten you in life. That's what I'm trying to say.
But it's like...
You need self-awareness here, Bucky.
Look, she got rejected, all right, from Kitty and Caroline. She found that out, but then she went back, right, because she realized her plan did not work, right? So you got to just keep at it, right? You got to have that persistence
Listen,
keep on
First to
going,
go
right?
succeed.
To create
the
more,
questions,
more of a rift.
just to give you an idea here, like we all are looking at you and thinking we are losing brain cells by this argument right now. Furry Tiger is saying, please ask Mucky if Sarah's a better player than Sneaky Steve.
No one is better than Sneaky Steve. I'm sorry. Like Ferris, Mark, Arlene, I know you're in the chat. You guys will never top Sneaky Steve. Tony, George, Luke, David, no one can beat Sneaky Steve. He is the genius of Australian Survivor. Yeah, we talked about before, Sandra's first 2-time playing. She's the first 2-time winner. This was Sneaky Steve's worst 2-time Premiership boot. Watch, he comes back, and he's a game changer.
Mucky, I've got a question for you.
Oh, no. I don't want to hear it.
What would you change your stance on Sneaky Steve if Eileen said, Mucky, I'll go on a date with you if you say I'm a better player than Sneaky Steve?
Wow, that is a good
Sneaky
question.
Steve who?
He
Suddenly
suddenly has amnesia.
No. Sneaky Steve will always be the GOAT. All right, Sneaky Steve is always the GOAT. I always stand by Sneaky Steve.
You know, it's all this time, however many podcasts we've done, the many times you've mentioned it, I still don't know if this is a bit.
No, listen. All I'm going to say is that we just saw why Mucky would struggle at Survivor, because Tom, his wingman there, gave him the easiest of layups to dunk on, and he just did not take it, oblivious to it. Completely missed the cue, completely missed his opportunity. That was your one shot there, Mucky. But no, Mucky's just going to come back and say, I'll continue to try. But I think that was your moment there. Tom, would you agree? No. That's what you did, bro. You were being a good mate.
That's why I'm sole survivor of season 10 right here, you know? Like, I put people in good positions, but then I have useless allies like Mucky over here, who's the equivalent of Sarah. He's the Sarah and Rihanna.
All I'm saying is Sneaky Steve's not taking him out on a date, so I don't know what he was doing here. You know, he wasn't definitely not.
One day, just wait till I move to Australia. We're gonna go on romantic sunset drives together. Sneaky Steve and I.
All right, love that, you heard it here. Yeah, you heard it here first. Just to close the loop on this. So obviously, you know, Sarah doing this bad move, the fact that she goes back to Kiki. But the one thing that we all have missed here, Tom, is how good was Mark's game and actually getting that information back to him? Like, how much does this show maybe that we didn't see the work that he's put in with the relationship with Kitty and with Caroline and so forth. But Kitty immediately shut that down. She was like, I know this is BS because I've got a good relationship with Mark.
Well, someone mentioned it before that the middle-aged mafia are only looking at it like from a logical perspective. Like logically, it makes no sense for Mark to go against them now. And like, I think any alliance that is built up of a bunch of logical robots is a concerning one. Now, I think Kitty's actually probably the best all-round player out of the middle-aged mafia. She reminds me a lot like a younger, fitter Trish from Caroline. Like she's able to keep Eden and Caroline working together, even though they're two very sneaky like players. Like Mark said it best when he wanted to get rid of Kitty because it would fracture Eden and Caroline's relationship, which was a great idea from Mark. So I think Kitty is a great. I mean, I don't think the edit has shown she's probably going to get voted out soon.
She's got one confessional.
Yeah, which is a shame because she's kind of like Josh from Blood vs. Water. Like on paper, he looks like a really good player who could win any season more often than most. But because of the edit he got, you were guessing he wasn't going to win. And I'm guessing Kitty's not going to win, even though she looks like a really good player.
I agree. And that's why I think someone like a Josh and like a Kitty, they come back for a future season. They could be so underrated by players who didn't play the season with them. Like Josh is probably, I think if he ever comes back, I don't know if they want to bring him back because they didn't invest in his character development too much. But if he was to come back and play another season for those players that are in here in the live, I don't want to blow up his spot, but I think he was a way better player than what the edit ever showed us on that, and kind of directed a lot of the movement in the game that season with Mark just using him as a meat shield for most of that game. I do want to move on to the Titans tribe finally, you know, because in this final episode, obviously a lot of things happen. And Kahuna, one of those things is that Kelly really changed from the beginning of the season towards the later part of the game. And I don't know what changed so much, but she seems like a lot more low energy. She's not as out there. Maybe the edit isn't showing some of those moments as much as they used to, but the editing was perfect because Ferris kind of notices the shift in her mood and her being a lot more calm. I don't know if it was maybe because she got voted out. She started to come to some sort of a self-realization of where her position sits within the tribe and within the game. And she thought, I need to change it. I'm aware of what I'm doing wrong. But Ferris becomes really paranoid in this moment. I've enjoyed him. He's been fun, and I'm going to continue to enjoy him on the show. But can we agree, Kahuna, that it feels like him jumping to conclusions here that she's got an idol came out of the blue? And I was very shocked at how it kind of took over his thoughts here and the way that he was processing the moves that he needed to make moving forward in the game. A lot of it was sort of the way that the edit at least made it look was around the fact that he thought she had an idol and she's close to Kirby in the game.
Yeah, and Kirby played up on it too. She's like, yeah, maybe she does have an idol, which is smart. I don't know why he would think that did someone hint it or like drop it to him or something to kind of plant that seed?
The edit showed Kelly come back from, like, she was out in the woods somewhere, probably just, doing her business, and coming back, and she had like a buff or something that looked like there was something in it, and she put it in a bag, and Ferris sort of saw that and immediately thought that she had something.
Yeah, I mean, Ferris, we often find the people that are the idol hunters and the idol finders, the most paranoid people will often assert like it's deflection. It's like, well, I'm out there finding them. Why isn't someone else must be as well, right? Like if I can find them, Kelly might be able to find them. So yeah, like I think with Kelly, it's just a combination of a few things. Maybe she's realizing her place in the game. Maybe the novelty is worn off. The initial like excitement and hype of being out on an island, and now it's three weeks of being tired and sore and sleeping on the floor and being voted out, and Alex basically saying he hates you and people turning on you, and as out there and as vivacious as Kelly is and as crazy as Kelly is, like that's got to beat people down no matter what, right? Like after 3 weeks of that kind of mental endurance, even the most out there people is going to be a little bit more withdrawn. And how that sort of plays when you've just given a full-on display of what personality you have, to then change it, whether it's conscious or subconscious, does sort of throw hints at people like a Ferris, who is also paranoid, who's looking for things. Like any little thing like that, he's gonna pounce on it.
By the way, Ferris reminds me, like, let's not forget the difference between excellence and someone that goes home early. We've seen it with the greatest of all time, Tony Vlachos. He was always paranoid, especially in his first season. Got to the end, won the whole show, then came back and went first in the next season before he came back to win again. So again, sometimes you need that certain level of paranoia in the game to make sure that you're not the one going home. So I understand that, sometimes the difference between excellence and being someone that's going to fail and flop out early could be razor thin, that difference. But I do want to talk a little bit, Tom, about Kelly and Kirby, and specifically Kirby's game, because I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know if you can give credit to Kirby. You may not give credit to Kirby, but I feel like Kirby's playing a bloody good game at the moment. Like, it's not great that she's going after Ferris, but Ferris is also going after her. So she's doing it in self, sort of trying to keep herself in the game. It's interesting, the dynamic between the two. If nothing else, they're giving me Simon and George vibes this season. Who would have thought back to back we would have these two big characters going after each other?
Okay, so I'm going to try and give an unbiased opinion because I'm not the biggest fan of Kirby personally.
Shocker!
I was very... if I was Ferris in that last tribal council, I would have struggled not to lose it. Like the way she was gaslighting him. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I think Kirby has amazing skills for Survivor, like in the social and in every aspect. I mean, you see her like doing all the challenge hacks and challenges, but like she has amazing skills and she's able to use them at every turn. But she has a case of big move-itis, and I think in the first 2 weeks, she actually put herself in a really bad position, I'd say. But she's been able to bring it back a lot this week, and it's through her amazing skills at the game that she's been able to get herself out of the bad position. But that being said, she put herself in the bad position to begin with. Like,
Yeah.
Which is what Garrick tried to say at the tribal council. He was trying to get that through to her, and she just couldn't. She couldn't get it. She was like, "But who made the move, Garrick? Like, who said that this was the move?"
Yeah,
Something
I mean,
as
like,
well. Something that I
That's the whole
heard.
thing that gets me. Yeah.
Like something that I heard in Garrick's exit interview is that apparently Kirby was in on the challenge throw as well. Like way back in episode 3, that she was in on the challenge throw. She threw the challenge and then led the vote against Peter, but then still voted with that side. It's like, I understand, because I do think that the rivalry between Kirby and Ferris would not have been a thing just because Kirby put herself in that spot. But no one can just really trust her at all. And I think it's definitely frustrating for Garrick and for Ferris, who potentially may have wanted to take out the Titans. But just because there's just no trust there, sometimes you've got to strike first, right? So,
But what's annoying is so many people do trust Kirby, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like you should not be trusting this person. Like if I was Ferris,
but do you know why? Do you know why that is? Like, from what I'm seeing on the TV show, it's pretty obvious that Ferris gives across very nervous energy when he's talking to people. Like, we need to make it happen now. We got to do this. Like, so it kind of feels like he's almost forcing them into it. Where when I look at Kirby is like cool, calm, and collected. She's got the 3 C's that would make Rodney very proud of her gameplay right now, where she's talking to them at a human level and just being like, listen, if you want to work with me, we're cool people here. You know, we're very solid, and they don't know what happened in the previous tribe. So I feel like her social skills, Kahuna, that is where she's winning people over. She's just, even though she is actually sporadic in her gameplay, and she's shown to be someone that doesn't mind mixing it up, she's not coming across that way when she's having these one-on-one conversations with people.
Look, we're not seeing it on camera, but clearly she's got a golden tongue. She's the most social person ever, because people are like, the cult of Kirby, they're in. Like, they're 100% in. Like Scott as well. I'm like, I don't get why Scott is so like ride or die with Kirby, and it's because of Kirby. Like, Kirby is the one that's fostering these relationships somehow, which we're not seeing. And it might be that cool, calm energy that you're talking about, especially out in an island where everything is so stressful and so intense. To have that different vibe from someone might be a very attractive kind of energy, you know. I feel like Kirby is one of the most powerful players we've seen in a long time in this game.
I agree.
And he's using it poorly, though. Like, she's ahead and she won this war, but she should have dominated. The way she's like wielding the relationships and the social and all that, I feel like she's the one that
I would even agree. I would even agree with Gabe. You're saying kind of reminds you a little bit of Tony, because Tony was that person that would do all the wrong things during the day, make life hard for himself, and then would have to go and hustle at night to get people back on board. So he was playing the survivor on double the difficulty, preparing himself for a Winners at War season. Kirby, very interesting, similar to this, making life very hard for herself.
Yeah. So much harder for herself. She could have been cruising in this at the moment, especially with someone like Ferris there. But she's brought all the problems on her own doorstep and has been competent and skilled enough to put them out, like to actually deal with it. But she didn't have to.
I want to bring, like Gabe is bringing something up, but I want to acknowledge Rachel's first year. Rachel's comment saying the world isn't wide enough for Kirby and Ferris. Totally agree with you. Both those egos can't be in the same tribe. And then Gabe saying Ferris is more trustworthy, and then what Kirby is by their actions. The problem you have here is that this is the first tribal council that all of these OG Titans are going to. They haven't seen Kirby's actions. They're just hearing it from Ferris, and Ferris isn't coming across trustworthy, at least in the edit. The way that he's coming across is, like, they even said this. Charles and Valeria said it. She said, I thought I was going to have to, like, seduce him, like, but he's just falling over his feet, badly wanting my vote from the start. So I don't know if he actually put in the effort first, and I could be wrong. Again, we're seeing an edited show here. I fully acknowledge it. Like, we don't see all of the conversations happening, but all of the chats that I saw, he seemed very panicked. He seemed like, we have to do this now. You got to come on board. It was an intensity about the way that he was talking to them that Kirby and her alliance didn't have. They just seemed like the more calm team. And again, let's also not forget that this is the episode that Charles finally came out to play. Like, we finally now know who Charles is. We know how his mind works. Mucky, Charles is the exact opposite of you, right? You would go out there and make every single sloppy move you could for the sake of entertainment. But he's looking at this game very analytically. He's saying there is 4 people in this one alliance and 3 in the other alliance. Which one of the 2 alliances will give us an equal footing so we don't get voted out in the long term? He's playing the numbers game, wanting to go to Kirby's alliance. What did you think of his move and the move of the OG Titans to go with Kirby's alliance based on the numbers?
What a bunch of absolute tryhards, if you ask me. Gosh, like imagine breaking the game down analytically. Yeah,
get it out.
Yeah, I eventually got there.
That's how analytical he is. You can't say it.
Yeah, I mean,
and Tom, he still doesn't believe he gives Raymond energy.
Oh,
I'm not Raymond. Oh my gosh.
Such a Raymond thing to say.
Oh my gosh. No, but
what did you think of the move?
I thought it was a good move, at least. Like, obviously I'm Team Ferris though, so I really wanted them to be on Ferris' side, but it does make sense to join Kirby's side because it is a 3-on-3, right? So at least you do have a equal chance. Worst case scenario is that rocks happen if it gets down to the 6 of you, right? Whereas with Ferris's alliance, I always have that numbers advantage over you. And plus, I forgot who I heard this from, but I recall it was something about swaps and stuff, right? So you want to make sure that the minority has got a lot of people to pick off, if that makes sense. So then if you thank you, Gabe. Thank you.
That's true, actually. Raymond gives a lot of hope to people out there.
Yeah, and my last name is
he
Hope.
puts the hope in Mucky Hope.
But it's like, I forgot who exactly said this, but when it comes to swaps, you want to make sure that it is like that the minority do have a lot of numbers. So then if your tribe does keep on losing, you've got more and more people to pick off. Whereas if you join the more larger alliance, there's not as many options to vote off, and you'll very quickly come to the awkward stage. It's like, okay, we're now kind of at the bottom, right? Whereas at least with this case, does it kind of make sense? Yeah,
kind of makes sense. I think they're playing it perfectly. They're playing the numbers game. I wouldn't be surprised to see them jump over to Ferris's side to take out one of Kirby's numbers, jump back and forth potentially, and play that middle a bit longer.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to be. There's no way that Kirby and Ferris ever gets together to work, especially now that Kirby has taken out Garrick in the game. I don't think Ferris is the kind of guy that's going to let that one slide. We even saw here in the beginning of the live him saying justice or vengeance for Garrick and for Viola in the game. So I feel like he is going to burn down the camp before he works with Kirby. So there's the perfect opportunity when players are playing emotionally. There's the perfect opportunity for players such as Charles, Winner, and Viola to take advantage of that and play them off against each other. So that is the way I would play if I was in their position at this point. Kahuna, I know you're someone that would have had your eyes on Winner. Winner is one of our winner picks in the season. He's sitting on an idol. What are you thinking of the way he's playing? Nobody's even thinking about the fact that this guy could potentially have an idol. Do you expect big things from him moving forward in this game? Because he seems very calm as well for someone that has never fully been in control of his game.
I feel like he had a bit of a coming out party as well. Like, we got to know Charles and figure out who he was. And Winner had a good couple of episodes as well. Like, I like him away from the Jaden Nathan Jock alliance where he's just one of the bros, and he kind of took a little bit of a step back. Now he's in here. I don't think Charles, Winner, and Valeria could have landed in a better spot. They landed.
Wasn't it Winner who said to them when they were in the water that they need to be a tight 3. No matter what, they should tell people we move as a unit. And I think that was a good observation from him, because there's more power with them being a unit in the game as well.
I think it's certainly what the message should have been to the rest of the Titans, to Valeria and Charles. I think he could have played that differently on an individual basis and say, yeah, I'm We're not all three of us, because the problem with that, and it worked out well, the fact that I guess it's because they landed in this spot where this one tribe are completely warring. The Kirby Ferris war was always going to end up perfectly for these new Titans that landed in. They were not in a minority. They're in a power position just by landing in the middle of a civil war. And yes, they should have definitely been united and pick a side. But by saying it verbally, that was the one mistake I didn't like from Winner. It could have backfired, because Ferris could have gone, if they're completely united and I've got no chance of getting them, then we need to unite against them. The thing with where Ferris ended up was there's three alliances, right? It's the Ferris, Kirby, and then the Titans. And Ferris was like, if Kirby votes with me, which they said they would, technically, we all knew it wasn't going to happen, then I'm okay. If the Titans vote with me, which they said they would, then I'm okay. The only way it's going to end up bad is if they both turn on me, right? And that's unfortunately what happened. And Maki, you said the right thing. Numerically, they did the right thing. But I do hope, like, Winner is seeing it. He's saying we got to be quiet. We got to, like, I do like that we're getting this personality from them now. And from what should be a lower position, they're playing it powerfully and united and agreeing, and it's kind of looking good for them at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I think they made the best possible move that they could have made in that situation. I did want to very briefly touch on, the cooking situation and Valeria making herself indispensable. Tom, would you take on a role such as the cooking role if you were able to play Survivor? Do you think that is the way to, garner some votes and keep yourself in camp? Or what other sort of activities, what other sort of responsibilities, I should say, would you take on to keep yourself in the game for a little bit longer? I know one of those would have been cuddling up to Garrick, but now that he's gone in the game, what would be the strategy here?
Look, I mean, I think I would actually say, look, I'm not going to cook for all of you. And knowing how bad I am at cooking, that is actually a very generous offer on my behalf.
It's the same as your acting skills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually really good at cooking rice. I was acting just then, like, Jesus. Yeah, I'm actually the best at cooking rice in my family. I need to brag. But anyway, no, I'd
You do the finger thing?
like
You know the finger thing?
For rice.
Asians, man, you got to do the Asian stuff.
See, Tom's not that good at cooking rice.
Nah.
He doesn't know the finger thing. He's
But I'm not
trash.
Asian.
Eileen will know in the thing, the finger method for sure.
Is
When
that
you cook rice, when you cook rice, right, the water on top of the rice goes up to that first line on your finger.
Yeah.
As long as the water's up there,
Listen,
perfect.
I'm still traumatized from living with one of my flatmates for years was a Filipino guy, and he used to judge my cooking of rice so much every single time. So I'm like, I don't think if I was ever on Survivor, I would like have flashbacks to how bad I was at cooking rice, according to the level or the standard that Asians are used to. That I would just not volunteer for it at all. It would not be my go-to. I'd rather give. I've got good hands. I'll give massages or something like that. There's other things you could do.
No, I'm so good at cooking rice. I refuse to use like cheat codes, like the finger method or like the cup method. I put the rice.
Billions
in
of Asians are wrong. Billions of Asians have got it completely wrong.
Obviously, no. I just pour
years.
the rice and I know exactly how much water I need. I sense it like Master Oogway. I'm just like,
let them know, Rachel. Let them know.
Yes, that's
rice
right.
cookers.
Yes.
yeah, I use them too. But anyway, no, I was gonna say I'd probably be like the firewood guy. I feel like I would just collect like
That's the best
absurd
role.
amounts of firewood, and I guess I would try my hand at fishing. I'd maybe try and run like a yoga class in the morning if there was no, to like
Watch out,
run
Zen Hen.
run
Then, yeah.
activities for like people to be like entertained. Yeah.
Gabe's on your case, man. Like every time you say something wrong, like the boys have had your back tonight, Tom. We've been giving you no grief. It's all Gabe. I don't know, Gabe. You got to be, very calm with Tom here in the chat. Poor guy.
Gabe's getting none of my rice. That's what I'm saying.
All right, so this immunity challenge was a fun one. I really enjoyed it. I like any of the endurance kind of challenges where they've got to hold something up. They had these big, sort of 25 kg drums that they had to keep up in the air. And when people dropped out, it meant that weight had to be shared by different people in the game. Kahuna, what did you think of this challenge that you enjoyed as much as I did? And how impressed were you with Charles being the last guy standing?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, coming into this, you wouldn't have thought he was going to be the one that would last the longest with the rest of his team all giving in. There were some impressive performances.
Yeah, really good actually. Like Charles impressed heaps. Like the fact that he's got his we get to know him and then he gets to show off his guns. He's up there with Jaden, just like carrying the whole thing. So it's impressive when you've got people like Alex and Jaden. It makes sense. And then Charles just comes out. Kirby as well. Kirby was freaking huge.
Last
She
woman
lasted
up there, I
longer than
think.
Garrick. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
she had
really
two.
fun challenge.
Not
I
only
love
did
that
she
stuff.
last, not only did she last the longest, she had 2 barrels. She was holding up 50 kgs for a very long time up there as well. Tom, what did you think of that impressive performance by Kirby?
Are you trying to like goat me into?
I'm giving you a layup. I'm doing to you what you did for Mucky earlier.
I'd prefer to talk about Rice. Thank you very much. No, look, I've said multiple times that Kirby has been great in the challenges, like her strategies, and in this case, I guess her just strength. I thought it was a rough challenge to be involved in when you're not on Jaden's team, though. That's basically it.
Yeah, Jaden was a machine up there. Alex also very early on had to take quite a bit of the load. So again, showing why he's going to be a threat later on in the game. But definitely these are the kind of immunity challenges that I personally really love to see. And Australian Survivor does a lot of this. For any future players who ever want to go play Survivor, work on your endurance. Like I feel like this is a challenge that comes up all the time, and especially when you look at this kind of immunity challenge very early on, Mucky, who would be the player that you would need to get rid of before the final 3 endurance challenge or the final 4 endurance challenge, depending on if they've got a final 3 or a final 2 this year? Who sort of showed that they have what it takes to win that based on this endurance challenge?
I mean, it's hard, right? Because it's definitely a physical aspect to this challenge as well. Actually, like people like a Jaden and like an Alex could easily hold up 2 for like a while. But I'd say when it comes to the final immunity challenges, like a lot of them is like you have to like stand on something really small. So I'd say it's like a player like a Charles, for example, who is like really good at these endurance challenges, but also potentially might have small feet. I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at his feet. I'd say like those. But I felt those type of players are the ones you would have to watch out for, like players with like small feet who are quite small and who can easily do quite well when it comes to endurance and mental challenges. Because the final challenge isn't, because the final challenge isn't going to be like a game of tackle bull rush or something, right? It's going to be like endurance based.
I'd say Kitty, honestly. I don't think she's going to make it that far, but like part of my strategy, and this isn't going to help my case with the whole like Tom doesn't like women thing, but like I want
guys alliance.
I want to make sure like the fit women are gone before merge, because like the individual portion of the game is like made for like.
Don't let them on the show.
Yeah, honestly. Like I just want I want 12.
So basically you want the ratings to tank, because if you vote out all the fit women on the show, then people like Mucky won't be watching after the merge.
What? Wow. No. 12,
as long as there's
12 juicy men in the merge.
As long as there's an old Asian man, Mucky will be there.
Steve, as long as they bring Steve back.
Yes.
Again, Rachel bringing up very impressive performance by Mark, obviously, as well in the spelling bee competition. I like the strategy where, well, firstly, he was taking people out and showing that he's got that physicality about him. And I really like the strategy where he had the 2 coconuts and he faked them out by throwing the fake one to his team member while he had the real one and he ran to go and complete it. That was a really good strategy, again, showing that Mark is a bit of a challenge beast himself. But also, let's get back into... Yeah, go ahead, Mucky.
So I just want to say, just really underrated, really funny moments at the start of the challenge. They have to decide who they're going to set out. And Kelly's like, "Oh, I can do this. I can spell." And Garrick's like, everyone can spell Kelly.
That's why I love
Eric. Eric really struggled to hide his dislike for Kelly.
They did it to Kelly on the other challenge as well, the chain one. They're like, "Oh, Kelly, you should probably sit this one out. It's more of a height issue." They're like, she's like, oh, is it a height thing? Yeah, it's gonna be height based. You got to sit out.
Poor Kelly. All right, so they go back to the beach here, and this is where the plan sort of comes together to try and keep the OG rebels strong. Aileen really is the one who leads the charge here to try and keep both factions together. It's the smart move. It's the right move. Aileen, clearly a student of the game, clearly someone that plays Survival 101, but Kirby and Ferris, they find it very hard to work together. And to Ferris's defense here, it was really his boy Garrick that just, like, I blame him more than anyone else. Like, he was kind of his own demise at this point because he couldn't get past the point that Kirby betrayed him in that first vote. He couldn't let that slide. So, he let his emotions take over here and said, we've got the numbers. We can take it out now. Why don't we do the move? Why have we not done the move? And that impatience ends up with them sort of making a move here, trying to get the OG Titans to turn on the Kirby faction, which ultimately ends up being Garrick's demise in the game. What did you think of that, Tom? I know you're a big fan of Garrick. What did you think of the interesting gameplay here by him?
Look, I don't think you should be so mean to him. You have to remember.
I like him as a person, but I'm talking about his gameplay.
He cried, Chris. He cried about Kirby. So have some respect. Now, I definitely think it was bad, but like, once again, this was all Kirby's fault. Like she started this war, and like I this was like the one time that either Garrick or Ferris like actively like went like back against Kirby. Like, I feel like every single time it's actually been Kirby trying to get them out, and Dave just had to go, oh well, if you're trying to get me out, I'll get you out. But this time, Garrick was the one going like, oh no, like I need to get Kirby out now. But like, it's just crazy. Like, it's just crazy that this has gone on for so long. And like, I honestly, I can't believe this rivalry is even happening, because like it really shouldn't be happening at all. It's just so stupid, but like a good stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, can you imagine Kuna being Aileen in that moment, standing there with two people that she's thinking, well, these are the two people I'm going to work with until the end of the game, right? These are my boys in the game, and both of them just looking at, they're basically wanting to burn the camp down at this point, saying, no, we're going after Kirby. We're not listening to you, Aileen, even though you're bringing all this logic about the numbers game, not cutting down our numbers too early in the game. We kind of need that strength right now. They're both just like, we hear you, but nah. Like, what would you have felt like in that moment? And is it now time for Aileen to look at the game and maybe rethink where she sits on this? Like, should she be staying true to someone like a Ferris in the game and a Raymond? Like, I mean, Ferris seems like a great player, potentially someone that is going to definitely bring the drama. I could see why the edit loves him, but at this point, he hasn't done much wrong except for the fact that I think he's going to play a very bold game. But who's the soldiers right now? Like, who does Ferris have in the game? Like, is it time for Aileen to abandon that ship with Ferris and Raymond?
Well, we kind of saw her hedging her bets a little bit. First of all, great props to Aileen for seeing the way it is. Like, last week she tried to engineer the split vote, which Kelly ended up stuffing up. Then this week she said, we got to stay rebel strong. We got to keep it together. She saw that. And then again at Tribal itself, she picked up that Garrick was on the way out and Ferris should have used a thing, and she ended up splitting again, which was smart. But I just feel like she doesn't have, in a tribe with someone as big as Ferez and Kirby, even though she's seeing the moves and she's seeing the matrix, she doesn't have the social capital or the standing within the tribe to actually execute her plans the way they should be, which is hard. So then if you're seeing the moves and you're seeing like, this is what we need to do, but these people are not going to do it, I feel like that should have been something like, instead of trying really hard to get them online, she should have looked at it and gone, this is irretrievable. These people will never come together. So I need to make my call. And she did, but I don't know if she chose the right way. And then at the end of it, we saw her going, Kirby, we need to talk. So now she's like in this weird in-between thing where she's kind of turned on Ferres by saying that. So she's not even with her alliance right there. But then also it's not enough on Kirby's way because you did sort of not vote with her and you voted against Kelly. So she's in this really...
Eileen really got burned on that one because Kirby was really annoyed at her for turning on her, and she was like, I'm the one who wanted to stay strong, it's not me. But Kirby is looking at her as being guilty by association just because she's aligned with Ferris in the game. And I forgot who she threw her vote on, but she tried to Kelly. So what a move by her in the heat of battle here, with the potential of there being idols in play, thinking individually and saying, well, I need to put a vote on someone else because otherwise we're going to have potentially a revote, or I could be in danger, or if somebody throws a vote on me, I could be in danger. So again, she came up with a plan C on the spot, and that is the makings of a potentially great Survivor player. I'm fearful of this position she has in the game right now. And one thing I will say, I've been critical of Australian Survivor in the past for edits, and we all know that. I've always said, like, the one thing that prevents Australian Survivor from outright being the best franchise out there is that they make it too obvious who's going to win their seasons or who's going to go deep. I don't have that same criticism of the season so far. Like, I feel like it's very hard to predict at this point who's going to win the game. And, as we sort of look at closing off this podcast, I want to go around the table here and ask you, who is your pick to win the potential season at this point? And Mucky, I'm going to start with you, and I don't want you to be only mentioning who you like the most of the season, because we all know that it's Eileen. I want you to let us know, who do you think actually has positioned themselves very well so far to go to the end here and take this game based on what we've seen?
Well, I do think, if I've been perfectly honest, like, Survivor Crush aside, Eileen is set up to do very well.
Did we not just talk about the difficult position she's in?
But I do think, though, like, because they're a really strong tribe, I think they could easily win their way to the merge. And I think Eileen is in a great spot to actually make it quite far. But a player who, I said it in our preseason thing that we had done, I think Ferris does have what it takes to win the game. Something that, I forgot who had mentioned it, but someone said that why did they target, like Garrick over Ferris? It's because Ferris has told everyone he's got the idol and they can't split on him. So why is Kirby going to risk them going after Ferris when he could have easily played an idol? He's already shown that he's going to play an idol on himself, right? If he's feeling the heat. So why make that risk against him when she knows that Ferris and his gang are coming after her? So, I think Ferris has got what it takes. He does have an idol. He does have at least one more round.
So Ferris is your choice.
I'm going to go Ferris, yeah.
It's a wild take because I feel like it's edit-wise, it's possible because the edit loves Ferris in the game, 100%. They're giving him a lot of airtime. But positioning at the moment, I don't see how he gets there. I just don't see him. He doesn't have the numbers. He's got, as soon as Eileen abandons ship, he's got to rely on Raymond to be his sounding board. It would be like me playing the game with you, Mucky. If we had to strategize to get to the end, it would be a hot mess. I'd be surprised
because you would be screwing up my plans. All right, you'll be screwing up my plans.
I'd be too much. I'd work too hard to get, Mucky on target, focused about the task at hand. Chardude, thank you so much for coming in with the $2. Chardude's player to win, because it is Australian Survivor and we do get players coming back into the game. He's putting his money on Frankie hiding out at Redemption Rock somewhere or Exile Island. Maybe we just haven't seen Frankie, battling her way there against every single person being voted out in the game. And Frankie is actually the one that's going to come back and win the season.
So when Chardude says that it's fine, but when I say Rogue's going to come back to Edge of Extinction and win, it's like, no, Mucky, no. Stop being stupid.
When you donate $2, then we can
get into the chat and donate, and then we can bring it up and put some credit behind it. Kahuna, who's your take at this point? We've got Mucky, obviously, making a very wild prediction that Ferris is going to win this season at the moment based on where he's sitting in the game. Kahuna, who do you think at this stage is best positioned to go ahead and go all the way?
Best position is such a weird thing because everyone's positions at the moment is so tenuous. Like, I feel like Kirby at the moment, the way it stands, is in the best position. but I can't see it lasting because, like, I think what I said earlier is going to be the fact here that all the big players are going to sort of be taking each other out and taking shots. No one's shy. No one's patient. They're just taking shots no matter what at colleagues, at alliances, at enemies. Everyone's free game. And I'm just thinking that there's going to be a couple of people that are quiet enough to not stick their head up, that they'll still be left standing when all the bloodbath is sort of finished, and we're going to be left with a who's left, and then see who kind of can step up in that. But the people that we've been shown so far is the big characters, the Faraz, the Kirbys, the Marks, and like even I guess the Caroline / Kitty, that combo. I don't think any of them are going to get to the end because they're all just going to be going at each other, guns blazing non-stop, that it's going to be easier for, like we just saw in episode 9. Yeah, it's someone like Scott. It's going to be easy for the Titans in the Rebels tribe, or the Rebels in the Titans, the OG Titans, to be able to just go, okay, I'm on this side now. Once the numbers are depleted on Faraz, I'm going to go on Faraz's side, take a number off Kirby. Once numbers are on Kirby, I'm going to just float back and forth, and they can do it on both sides because there's these warring factions no matter what. So I'm wondering if the winner is going to be someone similar to a Liz, who was not a big character, not a big player, but was around.
Viola.
And you know,
make it
survivor.
2 from 2.
Yeah.
2 from 2 with a Russian blonde Australian winning the show. You know, say it is going to be so. Tom,
this
who
would
do you
be my
think? Which current player do you have your eye on now that Garrick is out of the game?
So, Mucky said, you know, ignoring survivor crushes. So if I'm not being biased by my survivor crush, I think Sarah Teleki's got a really good chance of winning this season. I just think she's been playing really well. We need to see more of her. Valeria's going to.
What happened? Did you lose a number? I second that, Tom. Let's get Sarah Teleki back on. Finally, something we agree on.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's all I want. Although she can't come back on my season because I will give her the win. I wouldn't be able to say no.
Tom's more of a simp than I am.
No,
give me your idol, Eric Reichenbach.
Wait, which idol? No, never mind. So no, Valeria's
the real move is when you let her win the season at the end. You go on one knee and propose, like Boston Rob. That would be the real Chad move.
But then she goes, "Oh no, I've got a boyfriend. Haven't you seen my Instagram?" I was like, "Oh yeah,
$500,000."
No.
Right, Tom. Let's get on to it. Who do you think is going to win this season?
Valeria's winning, hands down.
Hands down,
100%, hands down. I guarantee you, she's winning.
Yeah. I kind of get vibes from Valeria as someone that could win this season. Like, I mean, why do we need to know about his strategy of cooking? It seemed like such a nothing, potential confessional that we had there, that I'm like, that's a great call, because a lot of people are potentially going to be. I don't see how she's winning it currently based on where she's sitting in the game, but from an edit perspective, I can see where you're coming from. I think based on who the power players are currently in the game and who's moving and grooving, I would have to say it probably would be. It's a toss-up. Kirby, Ferris, Mark, Caroline, those are all big players that at this point could potentially win it, and Caroline hasn't received any love as of yet on here, so maybe I'll just throw my support behind Caroline at this stage as someone that has the makings of someone that could be running an alliance to the end. The only problem I have is that they've betrayed Viola, and Valeria's never going to go back to work with OG Titans due to that. So there's a lot of runway here for a lot of people, and like Jonathan has said, the season kind of feels like it's being edited like Survivor South Africa this season, which, Survivor South Africa is my favorite franchise. And I love the way that they edited that show. I do believe last year they announced that some of the editors who works on Survivor South Africa are now also working on Australian Survivor. Yes. I believe that's a thing. Yeah. So their influence this season is now coming into play. We didn't have them there last season, but it's a good pickup, Jonathan, that maybe they've had a little bit of an influence in the direction of this season. One thing we haven't spoken about, and in the essence of time, I really want to bring this up as a talking point, is Ferris didn't play his idol, Mucky. A lot of people were critical of him not saving Garrick, including your bae, Aline. What do you think of the fact that, he did not play it when Aileen was putting so much pressure on him? I know that if she put that pressure on you, you would have fumbled and immediately played the idol on Garrick in that moment. Do you think it was a good or bad move holding on to that puppy?
Look, I think it's really hard when you're in that spot. It's similar to like when Lockie was telling Henry, to play his idol in the final 10 of season 2, right? Where someone else is telling you to play your idol, but if you just don't have that feeling, you just don't have that feeling, right? And I mean, I guess what's so good now is that Ferris at least has got another tribal up his sleeve, right? Whether if he plays for himself or he plays it for Raymond or Eileen in the next round, he's at least got something that can potentially switch things around for him, right? Whereas, like, let's say if he did play for Garrick, but then he goes out, then he looks like the idiot, right? Or if he plays it for himself or for Raymond, once again, he looks like an idiot. At least now he's got something that he can use to to try and swing things back around.
That's why
exactly.
I think he didn't play.
I don't think it stays 4-5 though. I think they crumble without Kirby. Like if he hits that move and Kirby's gone, that 5 scatters. Like they're all up for grabs at that point. Kirby is the glue.
Like, because then they've got Scott and Kelly, and I'm not even sure how close Scott and Kelly really are to each other. So it could have been a big move there. Ferris could have missed out on a big opportunity, but it's so hard in the moment when you're doing the numbers in your head and you're like, well, if I'm being betrayed, I'm screwed regardless. So if I save Garrick in this moment, I could just be voted out next because now people know I definitely don't have an idol. At least I now know that they're still doubting if I have an idol or not because I've not shown it to anyone. I've just told people I have one. At this point, he's still got some sort of safety and people will still be cautious of taking a swing at him in the next round. So I'm very interested to see where that is going to go ultimately as we go into this weekend when we will be seeing the aftermath of losing Garrick in the game. So any final thoughts from anyone? Anything that we've missed? Tom, you wanted to say something before I started going into the Ferris talking point?
Oh, I was just going to say to Jonathan's question here, Ferris has played his box idol. His idol he currently has is the one he just found.
The tree idol.
So, so both box idols are gone. So I don't imagine they'd rehide them. I mean, I think it is pretty crazy to have 2 separate idols hidden on each beach, So you can't get everything right, Jonathan. I forgive you for that.
That was the first time in history I think he's got.
Yeah, honestly.
That man.
Yeah. Chowdude here saying, do you think, thanks for the $2, Chowdude, by the way, saying, do you think that they're sharing the edit this season? You mean like the Survivor South African editors and the Australian editors? I think it's still a team approach. I think if you, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think it's probably just a case of them bringing some talent in from that specific franchise.
After South Africa got cancelled as well,
yeah, exactly. So it's great that they at least have some employment at the moment if this is the case, but it's probably more a case of just saying, hey, share some ideas and let's work as a team in regards to how we're going to do the editing of the show. And like in my opinion, if you get more of that influence across different franchises, the better for us, right? Because they've got that experience of having worked on some successful shows on that side. So I think that's probably how they've put it together. Danica coming up. Welcome, Danica, quite early over there. Driving. On one hand, not playing it was smart since they know now might not think he has one. Also using it only keeps them in the minority for another tribal. Winner or Jaden will win, but I'd like Mark to make the top 3. I think Mark and Ferris becomes like the 2 fan favorites from this season to come back and play again, just based off how they're playing at the moment. I think in a future returnee season, they're a lock at this stage to come back. But there has been some great characters outside of those 2 as well. But, Kirby, again, another great character. One thing that Australian Survivor keeps doing right, they do know how to pick a very good cast. I think 2 seasons in a row now, we've had some slam dunks across the board. But that is it here for this week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the live. It's been great talking to all of you. For those that are listening to this at a later stage, thank you for listening to us for an hour and a half. If you could do us a favor, even if you're an audio listener, jump onto the YouTube channel, the Nullified Take channel. Give us a sub as we're trying to get to 2,500 subs here on YouTube as our next goal, it would be greatly appreciated. Please share the podcast on whatever platform you listen to it. It does help get our name out there so that we can hopefully in the future do more and more content for you, and even get some of these great Survivor players who are in our live chat to come onto the show and maybe do an exit interview or a winner interview if they do end up winning the show as a whole. But for now, everybody, thank you so much. We'll catch you next time. Grab your torches, head back to camp. See you next time. Bye.